This is Forensic Talk with Jim Campbell, nationally syndicated across the country. All talk and all crime. It's our second show on sexual assault by the powerful, an allegation of rape against Bill Clinton, long-term anguish without accountability. That's today on Forensic Talk with Jim Campbell. Juanita Broaddrick is a former nursing home administrator from Arkansas. She alleged in 1999 that former President Bill Clinton raped her in April of 1978 when she was 35 years old and he was Arkansas Attorney General in the process of campaigning for governor. President Clinton's attorney denied the allegations when he was in office. Clinton has declined comment, though we'll see later in the show. Juanita will make a claim that Clinton did apologize to her at one time about the horrific event. Welcome, Juanita. It's an honor to talk to you.
Oh, Jim, it's an honor to talk to you, too.
And as I say, this is our second show on sexual assault. Kathleen Willey was the first one, and in her interview, she said that you were 150% credible when I asked how credible you were. So you can't
that's so nice. You know, she's one of the reasons that I did the Dateline interview. Kathleen and Lisa and I had conversations over the phone for approximately a year before I did come out on TV.
I didn't realize that. We'll talk about that in a bit, too.
Sure.
And the thing that has always wrenched my gut about your case in particular is this was 39 years ago, and it may have been a quick event in Mr. Clinton's life, but I've heard you talk before. This thing has never gone away from your life, has it?
Oh, no. And it just had it had serious repercussions, from panic attacks to being afraid. You know, I was never personally, no one ever came to me and threatened me except for Hillary. But I always had that feeling in the back of my mind, they know. And,
you know, in those days, rape was sort of not something that was handled the way it was now. So you yourself have to go through stages of guilt, shame, and rage, right?
Oh, yeah, and I blame myself, Jim.
Yeah.
I blame myself for letting him come to my room, and that was the mentality of the 70s.
All right, now, before we get into your story, I want to go back to October 9th. It was the second debate, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, Mr. Trump brings out four women. And tell us, and according to Kathleen, it was completely unscripted. Tell us what it was like from your perspective before the debate.
Well, before the debate, we were really very pleased to meet Mr. Trump in person. We were kept private, and all day long they hid us from the media and everyone. And then they took us by sort of a motorcade over to his hotel where he was staying, and we met him, and he was so nice. He came up and greeted each one of us four individually and had the nicest things to say. But at no time did he say, "Hey, I'm going to have you speak." We didn't know. All of a sudden, we were in this room opposite of the room that we'd held the press conference in, and he said his people ushered us into this room and this table, you know, and told us where to sit.
Wow.
And then Mr. Trump comes in, and I can't remember because it was just all so unreal. You know, I can't remember if he said, "Hey, the media's coming in," or what. But all of a sudden, here they come. And just like Kathleen, I'm sure, has said, the shock on their faces was probably not any more than the shock on ours.
I was stunned to hear, and you even have said it more, that I didn't realize he didn't even tell you were going to speak, much less that there was no script.
No, there was nothing. Thank God I was third, because it gave me a moment to collect myself. Poor Paula, she was the first one, and then Kathy Shelton, and then I. And,
you know, you sounded like first of all, you sounded passionate, and you sounded like you thought it through. It's pretty. You're talking to probably 100 million Americans with no advance warning.
I know. It was a shock to me, too. But I just told the truth. You know, I was still so upset that so much was being made of recorded messages, Mr. Trump being recorded, and I thought, my God, how on earth can people be so upset about that when they weren't upset about what Bill Clinton did to me and what Hillary did to me?
By the way, on that point, did you not feel used at all when all these allegations came up against Trump? Did it bother you?
Yes, very much so. I felt not used by Mr. Trump. In fact, I had to give a lot of soul searching to that. I was on an airplane going from Washington, D.C. after our Breitbart interview. I was on a plane when I got the phone call. I hadn't turned my phone off yet. And it was Trump's people inviting me to the debate the next night. And I said, I'm on a plane going home. I said, I have a layover in Dallas. Let me talk to the other ladies, and I'll just have to get back to you, which I got to Dallas probably around 11 o'clock at night. And I talked with them, and I said, if we're being used for the campaign, I don't care. We've been told to go into the woodwork for decades, and this is our opportunity to have our say.
Let me ask you this now, because Kathleen alluded to it slightly, but you talked about anxiety. When you went into that debate room, you had not seen Bill Clinton since when?
Oh gosh, not except on the TV.
Right.
I hadn't seen him in person except in 1991.
So it was 1991. Were you nervous? Did he look at you? Did he recognize you? What did you sense?
Oh no, I was in a nursing home meeting in Little Rock.
No, I mean at the debate now. The debate.
Oh no, we never looked. He never looked back at us.
Okay.
He would have to have looked over his shoulder.
Okay.
Back behind him. No, we didn't. We didn't come in contact with him at all, I was relieved.
Did you have any anxiety that you were close to him or anything,
No.
And Hillary and?
No.
Now Kathleen said that she did look into his eyes and that he looked totally fearful because he didn't know what was going to happen.
Well, I saw him on TV. Now Kathleen and I were sitting next to each other. Whether he looked back, and I didn't catch that, I don't know because I never looked at him at all.
He doesn't look very well now, does he?
No, he doesn't. He looks very ill.
Yeah, from when you remember him.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, now, most folks have never heard the story because it is now so long ago, and I know it's not the most comfortable thing. Could you go back to 1978 in I think it was called the Camelot Hotel then?
Sure.
And
I hadn't planned on meeting Bill Clinton in my room at all.
Yeah.
I had talked with Bill Clinton when he was on his campaign tour around my city, and he came to my nursing home, and I was trying to tell him about all of the difficulties that my industry was going through at the time. And he just seemed so interested and wanted to help, especially if he became governor. And he said, whenever you're in Little Rock, we need to get together and talk about this. So when I knew I was going to be down there, I brought all my forms and everything with me about our reimbursement method and how poor that it was at that time. And I called his campaign office, and hopefully that we could meet him down there. My assistant, my director of nursing, was with me, and we were going to go over at noontime on our noon break from our meeting and sit down and talk with him. And so I called his campaign office, and I was instructed to call his apartment, which I did, and he and I made arrangements to meet in the Camelot coffee shop. And I told my nurse, Norma Rogers, I said, you go on down to the meeting, and when I'm through in the coffee shop, I'll be right on to the meeting. And as soon as he got to the hotel, he called my room, and he said, there's so many people down here, and they're reporters. He said, can we talk in your room? And, people said, well, weren't you frightened?
Yeah.
No, not at all. I was anxious to speak with him. And he was the Attorney General of the state of Arkansas, and I had no fear about allowing him to come to my room. I believed him when he said that the coffee shop was full. And I had coffee ordered up to the room. In fact, I think it came just about the time that he came to the room.
And you've only met him like once or twice, right? You don't know him well at this point, do you?
No. Oh, no, not at all. Just very interested in talking with him about my nursing home.
And he's about 35 years old too, right? You're about the same
age?
I
think he was 2 years younger.
2 years younger than you. Okay.
Yeah. And he comes into the room, very cordial, very nice, and comes over to the table by the window, and he sees all my forms and everything laid out there, my files, and he starts talking about a little building down below that he wanted to improve after he became governor. It was an old jailhouse of the 1800s. And he puts his arm around my shoulder to point to it, and then turns me to him and tries to start kissing me. And that was a shock. Jeez. That was completely, it just absolutely blew me away.
And you've really had no conversation, right? I mean, he's just come in.
Yeah, he's just come in, and now we had the conversation about the little jailhouse down below, and I was just about to pick up my forms and start talking to him about our reimbursement method. Mm-hmm. And that's when things went bad, very bad. And I think I really don't like to go into the rape itself, Jim. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I just don't. I did that on Breitbart for the very last time,
right,
and that was extremely painful. I just don't talk about that anymore. But it was a very vicious rape. I felt like he had almost bitten my lip off.
Jeez.
I was just absolutely devastated. And when he gets up and straightens himself, and I'm crying, his words to me were, don't worry. He says, I'm sterile. I had mumps when I was a youngster. And I thought, my God, you think that's what I'm worried about? That's what I'm crying about? No. And then he continues to straighten himself, and he walks to the door, and he puts on his sunglasses and turns to me and says, you better get some ice on that, and goes out the door.
Unbelievable. Did
yeah,
he?
It was. It was absolutely.
Did he have a look in his eye like he was in a trance or something? Did he know what he was doing?
I have no idea.
So you don't remember seeing anything. He just went at you.
Yes. Yeah. And I've thought about it so many times.
Yeah.
Could he have been under the influence of something? Yep. I have no idea, because this wasn't the person that I had met, and worked in his campaign.
Yeah, I was wondering if there was like a Jekyll and Hyde thing that he couldn't control, sexual addiction or something. But
well, you know what? Absolutely, he was a nice-looking man. He was so charismatic.
Yeah. He
could have turned and gone and had sex with probably many women in Little Rock, and I never understood him in the position that he was as our Attorney General, how he could do something like that, how he could put his whole life in jeopardy.
Yeah, and he's married at the time, of course, too.
Yes. It never made sense.
So after this event, you told Norma Rogers, right? Is that
right? She was the one that came back to the room, because I never showed up for the meeting, and she was the one that came back to the room and found me.
And in those days, you didn't think about going to the hospital, right?
Oh, no. I don't think even being a registered nurse, I don't think I ever recall hearing the word rape kit. But I would never have gone. I blame myself for letting him come to my room. The mentality back then was, something like this happens to you, you just lump it and go on. It's just, and especially with who he was.
What I find, really bad about the power nature is that there's an arrogance or whatever, that he didn't even try to smooth you or to say anything. He just attacked you.
No, that's what shocked me, because he was so cold and callous about it. And I've told a number of the people that I told after I got home that I felt like somebody was going to come in and get rid of the body. That's how cold it was.
Did you, now you did not tell your husband, right?
No. My husband at the time was an alcoholic, and we were in sort of an estranged relationship.
Mm-hmm. And probably wouldn't have gone over well, in other words. He would have blamed you, right?
We didn't get along at all.
Didn't get along at all, okay.
No, not back then. I mean, we didn't, he would have blamed me, and I had blamed myself enough.
How did you blame yourself, given that, because you just thought, you're saying, in retrospect, it looked naive to let
I wouldn't today.
I know that. Yeah, I know that.
With the mentality of today. But back then, I did.
And, the mentality of today, you said right on the debate, you used, with Trump, you used the word rape strongly. So,
and, I hadn't been able to say that until Trump did. whenever he came out with that Facebook ad that had me in it, and then they talked about it on Hannity the next day or two, and he said the word rape, it just sort of washed over me. I thought, my God, yes. I can't say sexual assault anymore. It was rape.
Interesting, too, is that you said later on that you did not remember the date or even the month that this happened. It was April 25th, 1978, but it was verified you were there that exact day in that hotel at that conference.
Right.
And that Clinton was in town with no schedule that morning. So
right. And I couldn't remember the date when she and I talked about it, 20-some-odd years later. It's something I wanted to forget, not remember.
Understand totally.
Yeah.
So 3 weeks after this event, you got invited to a small Clinton fundraiser. Is that true?
Yes, I had helped organize it at a local physician's home.
Okay.
And I wasn't going to go, but I had some checks that probably didn't amount to $75, all a couple or three of them. And I called the campaign headquarters, and the lady that answered the phone said, I'm going to be at Dr. Criswell's. Could you run them up there to me? And I said, sure. I said, I won't be staying, but I will run these up to you. And I went up there with two of my friends and my ex-husband, and he had already planned to go to it, my ex-husband had, because he was a big Clinton supporter.
Okay.
And we all went up there, and I told him, I said, I don't feel well. I'm going to probably leave, and Norma can drive me home. Norma went with us, too. And so when we got there, it was about 20 minutes before it was to begin, and the people, the man that drove the Clintons from the airport was a personal friend. He did not know at that time what Clinton had done to me. Mm-hmm. And he came over to me as soon as they came in the back door about 20 minutes earlier, and came over to me and he said, and this was a shock, he said, the topic of the conversation all the way to the airport, from the airport, was them asking questions about you and talking about you.
Really?
So I thought, I need to get out of here. And so I turned to Norma and I said, Gary's going to stay, but I need to go. And before I could get away, I see Hillary Clinton in the kitchen area, and someone's pointing to me, and she comes directly to me. I mean, I'm the first person that she comes to in that room. Everybody hadn't gotten there yet, though.
Had you ever met her before?
No.
So she knows who you are?
But somebody was pointing me out.
Okay.
And so she comes over to me and starts this profuse rhetoric about how appreciative she was for everything I was doing in Bill's campaign. And I just sort of nodded and turned and was going to walk away. And I didn't realize I felt somebody grab my arm, and I thought it was somebody behind me, but it was her. And she pulled me back to her, and that's when she said, do you understand everything you do? And that smile of hers faded to this very much of a scowl, and I thought to myself, yes, I understand, and I left.
Wow, mesmerizing. So do you think that Bill Clinton would have told her about it?
I don't know. I mean, who knows what kind of sick relationship these two have had all these years? You know, did he go to her and say, "Well, I messed up this time"?
And you clearly got the impression that she was almost threatening you.
Oh yes. Yeah, that's what Andrea Mitchell and I disagreed about when Andrea Mitchell called me that time.
She didn't. What did she think?
Oh, she just thought it was just ridiculous for me to think that. And how could I think something like that? And I said, Andrea, you would had to have been standing in my shoes and seen that look and how she was squeezing my arm telling me that. Yeah, I know what she meant.
You're listening to Forensic Talk with Jim Campbell. We're talking with Juanita Broaddrick, charged Bill Clinton with raping her. And we'll be right back with more. Juanita Broaddrick is a former nursing home administrator from Arkansas. She alleged in 1999 that former President Bill Clinton raped her in April of 1978 when she was 35 years old and he was Arkansas Attorney General in the process of campaigning for governor. Hillary basically has intimidated you for the last 40 years with that 1 5-minute thing, right?
Oh, yeah. It was just as though I'd been raped all over again.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I'm telling you, it was because I did not want to talk to her. I thought, when I first saw her, you know what my instinct was? This poor woman married to this horrible man until she did that to me.
All right. In 1991, you ran into Clinton again, and he actually comes up to you, and I have the quote, "Juanita, I'm so sorry for what I did. I'm not the man I used to be. Can you ever forgive me? What can I do to make this up to you?" And then you responded that you were standing there in absolute shock, and you told him to go to hell and walked off. What was that whole moment about?
Oh, my God. I was in a meeting, and someone said Juanita Broaddrick is wanted in the hallway. So my nurses followed me out, but they were a little bit behind me. They were probably 20 or 25 feet from me. And I go down, the man points down around the corner, and then there stands Bill Clinton. And he comes immediately to me, tries to take my hand, and I just sort of backed up. And that's when he said all of that. And when I said that, and I just turned and walked away, and the girls were saying, well, what did he want? And I told them, and we all stood there in shock.
Were you amazed that, A, he obviously is at that point admitting that he knows what he does, he remembered it, and that he would say it to you publicly like that?
Yeah. I was absolutely amazed. And I wish the two policemen that were standing there with him would have come forward and said something. Of course, they may be dead now. Who knows?
Did they hear what he said?
Oh, yeah, they heard.
Yeah, because that's another thing that's obviously rather offensive is he vehemently denied the story when he was in the White House. And it was first coming out publicly, and his lawyer denied it for him.
Right.
And then Clinton said, "I'm backing up what my lawyer said."
Yeah. Well, I think he made a comment. I don't know if it was Kendall or who it was. He made the comment.
Yes, it was David Kendall.
Yeah, he made the comment that Bill Clinton never raped Juanita Broaddrick. Well, at the time, my name was Juanita Hickey, so that's what they were saying, that he was using different words and names.
Oh, my God.
Around it.
Well, Clinton has certainly done that a lot of times before, or he'll say, like he did with Jennifer Flowers, that allegation is false. But Jennifer Flowers said they were together 11 years or something, so if it was 10 and a half years, it's false.
Right.
It gives the sort of the wrong impression.
Exactly.
So the fact that he apologized, did not mean anything to you?
Oh, we believed it. Yeah, we went to lunch right after that, and we were sitting at a table talking about, the three of us were, it was Norma and her sister and I that were at the meeting, and we said, does he really mean this? Was this really a truthful statement by him? Is he sorry for what he did? And then it was about 2 or 3 days later that he announced he was running for president.
Oh, my God. It was really that close? Wow, that is amazing.
And how did he know I was there? That's amazing. I guess he just knew there was a nursing home meeting there and asked someone. I don't know. It was wild.
So did you clearly take that he wanted you to remain silent?
No. At the time, I took it as a sincere apology.
Oh, okay.
But then he announced for president, and then I knew he was just trying to
keep you quiet,
to hide the story.
Yeah. 3 days later, he announced he's running. It's pretty amazing. Now we'll talk about, as the story goes public, this event again happened April 1978. Why did you basically wait until 1999? And let me say first that you'd actually initially denied it in the affidavit with Paula Jones' lawyer, where you were known as Jane Doe 5, and since there were unfounded rumors that Mr. Clinton had made unwelcome sexual advances toward me in the late 70s, these allegations are untrue. Why did you feel you had to do that?
I didn't want to come forward. I had waited so long. Mm-hmm. I was embarrassed at the fact that I had waited so long to come forward. and I just didn't want to be subjected to what I was, after I did come out. And it was just, and then with Paula Jones' people, made me Jane Doe number 5 in theirs, it made me more indignant about these people don't have the right to do this to me for their own personal gain. I felt more conflicted than ever, and I was not going to let somebody else force me out.
So here you go. Here you are hurt again for an event that you were the victim of. Did you know Paul at all then, or you didn't have any deal?
No, but I was very angry. I've told her that. Yeah. I was very angry, but she didn't know who all they were getting to try to substantiate her own claim.
Yeah, I felt they used her a lot, too.
I'm sure they did.
Now, and one of the things you said when you were asked about why you didn't come clean about it, your quote, "There's just absolutely no way anyone can get to him. He's just too vicious." Which gets
That's what I said when those investigative people came to my front porch.
Right.
And I didn't know at the time that they were recording me.
Is this something? I was going to ask about whether there was any Clinton intimidation. Are you talking about private investigators, or are you talking about the special prosecutor's office?
No, this is when they came to my front porch for Paula Jones.
Oh, for Paula Jones,
asking me questions about Clinton. And that's when I made that statement that you just
can't go after him. Yeah.
Don't even try to include me in that. But I didn't realize they were recording me at the time when I said that.
That's really unethical too. I mean.
Oh yeah, and Paula and I've talked about that since. They should have told me that they were recording me.
Did you not feel that the Clinton people, did they sic any private investigators on you, or did they try to intimidate you in any way that you know?
No.
Okay, because
I felt like I was being followed at times, but that might have just been my suspicious nature that I've had ever since '78.
Okay. In 1999, you filed a lawsuit against Clinton. Is that right?
No, I didn't.
You didn't. Okay.
Larry Klayman from Judicial Watch called and said that the Clinton people had so many files regarding the women, and he said, if you want to, we can try to find out what information they have on you. Uh-huh. And I said, sure.
That's the PIs and the investigators that they hired, right?
Right.
Right, and Hillary hired them.
Yeah, I'm really not for sure about that.
I think they try to say Betsy Wright did it, who was the chief of staff of Clinton, but I think Hillary worked very closely with with her.
Probably in Hillary's war room against the women.
The war room, yeah. Did you I did read that you said that your business was audited by the IRS. Do you think that was any link to intimidation, or just coincidental?
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah, I definitely feel, because I was a subchapter S corporation.
Right.
And so they audited my nursing home, which is the same thing as auditing me personally because of the way my corporation was set up.
Right. So
I felt like that was exactly.
That was the IRS, not the Arkansas, right?
Right.
Right. So you figure that might have even been ordered, but you don't know, right?
I'm just sure that it was. I mean, I have no specific facts, but why, after my Dateline interview, would I be audited? And when I came out about, in the Paula Jones trial.
All right, let's talk about the interview with Lisa Myers. That was on Dateline NBC in 1999. That's the first time you went public?
Yes.
It is, okay. Now, What was the story there? Because initially NBC wouldn't play it, or what?
Right. They came to, Lisa Myers and Kathleen Woolley and I all had phone conversations for about a year before the Dateline interview. And the Dateline interview finally came about because there were so many stories after Paula Jones came out, her story did, about me, that I had, the wealth that I had was because of a Clinton payoff. And I was upset at that, to think.
I never heard that one.
Oh, yeah, that I was paid off, and that's why I was keeping quiet. The reason that I finally came forward is my son is an attorney. When I came forward with Ken Starr's people, my son came to me and he said, Mom, this is federal. He said, you can't lie anymore. He said, this is serious. And so he and my attorney talked with Ken Starr's people, and they did give me immunity for anything I had said previously if I would just finally tell the truth, which is what I did.
Were you upset that NBC wouldn't play it initially? And I guess around this time, the vote for Clinton's impeachment is hanging out there.
Oh, good gosh, yes. It was filmed on the January the 20th of 99, and they told me that it would air on January the 29th. You know, they had done all their investigation. There was no reason. There's no information that they found out after the 29th. They just held it. And it wasn't aired until the 19th of February opposite the Grammys. It was so systematic the way that they did it.
Did you feel violated, or that? Oh
yes.
That they
in fact, Lisa Myers called me one time because I was even upset with her, and she's a lovely lady. But I was upset with everybody how they used me, interviewed me, and then they didn't put it out during the impeachment trial. That was very upsetting. And she called and she said, "You know, I have good news and I have bad news." And I said, "Okay." She said, "The good news is you're credible. The bad news is you're too credible."
Wow, boy, is that a and let's get this public too. You were not paid for that interview. You haven't.
No.
You've never done a book deal or anything, right?
No, never.
You've never made money off of this thing.
Oh, never, absolutely never.
Boy, that's the power of the establishment, isn't it?
Oh, isn't it?
And I remember, by the way, vividly in the final vote before the Senate, they were saying that they had from, I guess, Ken Starr in a room there the allegations from you and all that stuff, and people were saying go in there and read that stuff.
Right.
But it was not brought public, and as I said, the Dateline interview was not played then. That was that incredibly painful for you to film that?
Oh, listen, Jim, it was terribly painful, and probably one of the most painful things is remembering what Hillary did to me, and I tried to bring that up in the Dateline interview. And when I started but Lisa and I had talked about this, you know, the intimidation by Hillary. And when she asked me the question, have you ever been intimidated or threatened, I immediately go into this talk about what Hillary had done to me. And that's when her producer rushes into my living room and says, "No, we can't go there. We cannot talk about Hillary."
And why not?
Well, who knows? He was making comments like, "We're not here to talk about Hillary. We're here to talk about Bill Clinton, and we cannot bring her into this."
Was Lisa Myers completely uncomfortable with the whole thing because her name was going to be on essentially a rape charge against the sitting president?
No, Lisa encouraged me to come forward.
Did she?
It's very much. She just felt like it was a story that had to be told and was extremely supportive.
And by the way, she said that you were open, straightforward, and guileless, which is how you come across, that completely credible. You have no reason to have made any of this up.
I have no reason whatsoever. It's caused me so much pain, you know.
Now, I noticed that what happened to you is consistent with other women, too. Elizabeth Ward Grayson said that she had her lip bit. Jennifer Flowers said that she got the no pregnancy line. And, of course, Paula Jones had the same in the hotel room out of the blue.
Right.
Did his face go red like Paula said, though?
Yes.
It did?
Yeah.
Oh, you do remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that.
See, that to me I think that's the link to his sexual addiction, that he goes, and that's why I was asking if he's in a trance or something.
Yeah.
And he ends up not being able to control himself.
Yeah, I just had so much fear because of my lip. You know, I felt like he was going to bite my lip off. It was very frightening.
Now, how do you feel about in the 2016 election when Hillary was asked about whether women should be believed when they make rape allegations, and her quote was, "Everyone should be believed at first until they are disbelieved based on evidence"?
Oh, my gosh, that's exactly, well, I think it was Catherine Prudhomme that stood up in some town hall meeting that asked her that question. But previous to that, she had it on her website. And then when I heard about what she had tweeted, that tweet, that's when I first went on Twitter and answered her. You know, that tweet that...
Oh, really? Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that went viral. And after I tweeted that, she took from her website, "You should be believed."
My God.
It just goes right in the timeline.
And now, so 39 years later, as we finish this up, are you enraged that he's not been held accountable, or have you reached some point where you're at peace with it?
I'm more or less at peace with it. I hope someday they're held accountable for the crimes they have committed, not only against me, but other people and other women. I hope that someday that will happen. I don't see it happening. I hope that it will. But I'm so relieved that they are gone. You know, I stayed up until almost 3 o'clock in the morning.
Just to make sure.
Just to make sure. And I stayed and watched it alone. It was so personal to me, Jim. I had to watch this alone. I was never so thrilled in all my life.
What's sad to me is that, and I said this to Kathleen Willey too. You go back to the early 70s. If Hillary had laid the law down and said, "You go get yourself whatever counseling, or you get this thing fixed," instead of allowing 50, 100, whatever the number is, women to be basically hurt and then have to be discredited for the next 30 years, it seems like it would have been much simpler to address it.
Oh, yeah, but that's Hillary. She always put her ambition first and humanity last.
So you think this was she just wanted the power and she's willing to do anything?
Yes. Oh, yes. I have no doubt. Her ambition was the most important thing in the world to her.
So as you look back on this, let's sum it up with the suffering. You had marriages fall apart, right? I read you had fear of enclosed spaces.
Oh, yeah, and just severe panic attacks. I don't know if you've ever had a panic attack. Those finally went away after about 10 years.
And you think those came directly from the attack?
Oh, I never had them before.
And when would they happen? When you were in a room or something?
No, it would usually happen around 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and I would just wake up and feel like I was dying. I couldn't breathe. Jeez,
did you ever get any counseling for this?
No.
No, you didn't.
No.
Because it was just too long. It was too long. Nowadays, you would have reacted probably completely differently.
Oh, yeah.
But he was a very powerful man.
Oh, well, I had just held it in for so long, The very few friends that I told within a few weeks and days after the incident, I just never talked about it anymore.
I really admire you, Juanita, and I really feel bad for all the suffering you've been through. And I guess the only hope that you take away from this is everybody believes you now. I think pretty much, right?
Yes. I hope so.
There's no question about it.
Yeah.
And it's been a real honor to finally get a chance to talk with you, having followed the story, obviously, for years. You're listening to Forensic Talk with Jim Campbell. We've been speaking with Juanita Broaddrick. Thank you, Juanita.
Hey, thanks, Jim.